All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a very special guest. Not to confuse you, but I'm here with another Zach, a fellow Zach who spells it with an H. I'm here with Zach Gunderson. Zach, how are you doing?
Good, good. For your listeners, they can just call me Taz, the other Zach, Toz.
TOZ, I love it. Taz it is. Awesome. Well, Zach is someone that's I've had the pleasure to recently connect with, and for those of you listening back home, he is the co-founder and CEO of Stealth Mode startup, and he is very passionate about AI. It's something that I am relatively new with. I've dabbled around with a little bit. I've had some conversations, but I'm excited to talk to him about AI and to learn more about it and just see what else he's passionate about. But Zach, do you mind kind of going into your background, who you are, what you're doing these days, all that good stuff for our listeners?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Zach. This is cool.
Yeah.
So this is an honor. First of all, I've never been on a podcast. Oh, also apologies as we start here. I'm recovering from COVID, so I still have like
Oh,
a really. It's fine now. Like
okay.
I'm totally good, but
Good.
I'm really congested. So if I sound weird, I apologize.
No
I can't
worries.
talk very well. Anyways, but yeah, I guess I can jump in, and I will say, you do know when you say he's CEO of Stealth Mode Startup. Do you know what that means? I'll just ask that first.
To be honest with you, I don't think I do.
Okay, good, good. I guessed that from the context, and I didn't want to call you out, but I thought,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. So Stealth Mode Startup means, and your listeners, I think your pod's more on the generic side, not in a
Yeah,
negative way, but just kind of like, what's your passion? What do you do? So
exactly.
right, so I'm in startup world. So in SaaS startup or really just startup environment where you're trying to raise and either sell a company or IPO. A lot of times, folks, when they get started, either because they still have a full-time job or because their product isn't live out in the market yet and they're protecting some IP, or a combination of that, plus our brand is still being built, which is the case for us. That last one where it's kind of all three. Well, not all three. I'm full-time, but the latter two. So a lot of, if you see out there, you see all kinds of people that are working for Stealth Mode Startup, and it just means I'm not ready to tell you the name of my company yet.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So you have a startup. We don't know what it's called yet. You'll let
Yes.
us know when the time's right. But
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah. I don't
okay.
mind sharing. So we're stealth, and we're not very stealthy stealth. So
Okay.
if we're talking one on one, I'll tell people pretty much
Yeah.
all about us, right? But I'm not ready to blast it out yet. We're kind of saving
Sure.
that moment. Um, I can tell you right now, we have a name that we really like, and
Okay.
it's on our website, so it's not a secret. It's
Okay.
Harmony, which is the name of both our company and our flagship product. But that could chanch. So
Okay.
I believe in brand from my background, which I suppose we'll get to in a little bit here. But
Yeah.
because I believe in brand, I don't believe in just, I like that name and it sits right with me. I believe in working with professionals that understand brand and the
Mm-hmm.
psychology behind it and the art and the science behind it. And so I've contracted a guy that I respect and knew was the guy that I wanted to build my brand. And we're close. We're probably a month away. We've been in the process for a while. So that's more context than you needed, but I
Okay.
suppose it's a podcast. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate the insight because yeah, I'll be honest. I was like, I don't really know, but I'm looking at your profile on LinkedIn, and that's kind of that's what it says you're currently doing. So I'm going to go with it, and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
living right now. None of this is scripted. None of this is planned.
It really is proof, right?
Yeah, I mean, like this is just going off the cusp, and
Yeah.
I mean, like again, full transparency here. Me and Zach, we connected maybe a couple months ago or something, but we really just chatted for the first time the other day. Like that was kind
Yeah,
of like when we
really.
started
Yeah,
chatting, and
yeah,
like
yeah.
24 hours later, we're hopping on this pod. So
Yeah, it's
that's how
awesome.
organic this all happens. So I appreciate the insight. But yeah, I think that's really interesting how you have that passion for brand and like the psychology of it. My undergrad degrees in psychology, so
Mm,
I love that. And I'm in the business world now. So kind of morphing how psychology goes into business and business
yeah,
decisions and perceptions from the consumer or, whoever's participating in whatever your business or organization, something
absolutely.
you're
I
you're
mean,
fascinated by.
Yeah, psychology is so interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's so important in business. So I say two things. One, this is a principle of the product that we're building, is communication is business.
Yeah.
So people ask us, our flagship product, we're helping with communication. Why does it matter? How are you going to save us money, et cetera, et cetera? Like that is business. It's
Mhm.
communicating with other human beings, really.
Right.
It's commerce,
Right.
and communicating and exchanging ideas, information, value add products, services, right?
Mhm.
But I would also say business is psychology, right?
Yeah.
Or at least those who know how to do it. So
Mhm.
I think it's really interesting that that's your background, and you
Yeah.
have that passion for it too. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. So, Zach, what's your background? Where do you come from with your kind of like interests and career and all that good stuff?
Sure, sure. Um, yeah, I mean, it took me forever to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like I just figured it out, to be honest.
Sure.
Uh, but I've always wanted to drive value and to accomplish something great. Sorry again, but actually, I'm gonna mute for a second. Let me blow my nose. Oh
All good,
goodness,
man. No worries.
it's kind of bad. Do I know how to mute in here? All right, maybe I just need to power through. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I started with, um, well, when I got out of college, there was an option to go into Target. So coming out of Minneapolis, St. Paul area, I won't go past, older than that, but um, in college, I knew I wanted to do business. I did supply chain and information systems at Carlson School of Management, which is part of the University of Minnesota. Um, and when I graduated, it was 2009. It was like right during the Great Recession, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, folks recall, you pretty much for sure won't unless you're
Right.
sitting, but I remember being at the Great Hall of the undergrad and seeing all, like, the whole school, everybody who was in the school building at that point. I think it was an evening class or like 5. It was because it was closing bell, right? So it
Mhm.
would have been like 4 p.m. here. Not a ton of people in the building, but enough. All of them were in the little, like, area looking at the TV, watching the stock just drop through the floor. And I'll never
Jeez.
forget that, right? And then everybody who wanted to be a financial analyst, uh, which was everybody. Everybody wanted to be an investment banker. That's what they thought
Right.
they would be. Half the people at my school, if not more, but probably half. There's like 6, 7 majors. Half of them were finance, right? That was the sexy thing to do. It was
Right.
popular. Well, that happened. That it was like you could see it in their eyes. Like, well, my dream job just died. Like, it's
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah.
And then all the regulations and change and situation and the recession that came out of it. It was crazy. But something in my career, or actually just kind of belief about markets and businesses, this stuff doesn't last. You got to zoom out. So it seemed like such a big deal. Like, even like what's going on right now in the market might seem like such a big deal. It's not, man. These things are cycles. Or if it is, we're all going to have way bigger problems. You know,
Right.
like, it's never really. We have a lot of history and a lot of data to calm down and zoom out. So, anyways, that's neither here nor there. But I went after college, instead of going to Target. That's where a lot of my guys went to start. Target's in Minneapolis. I had an offer from them. I scratched and clawed for it in a tough environment where all of a sudden, all the kids in the business school had more offers than they knew what to do with. We were, basically, having a little gauntlet of who's going to get the few jobs. Well, I got one, and I probably get the best one out there. I had a good one, but we chose to go to basically a seminary instead.
Okay.
So I was married in college. My wife and I went to a seminary. I won't make this religious in any way as a podcast, but I'm not particularly religious these days, but I was then. And we went, and it was a good experience. We learned a lot, really intense, kind of like Peace Corps for and religion, or seminary at the same time.
Mhm.
And I think there were some things that honed in me as far as public service and character, and it's just like managing yourself, as well as critical thinking and writing and presenting to groups and mentoring others. So there's a lot of positives, right? I take
Yeah.
from that time. So that was 2 years in Southern California. We came back and decided not to pursue ministry, but to come into the working world. my
Mhm.
wife and I moved back. Everybody thought we were crazy moving from Southern California. You know, you have opportunities to stay where it's warm. Why do you want to go back? And to be honest, I hated. I enjoyed the program at the time, and I enjoyed the food. It was great. And if it's going to be one weather all the time, 70 and sunny, sounds great. But I wasn't a huge fan of Orange County, and I was happy to come back to the Twin Cities. Got a job in what we call here in the Minneapolis area the rep agency, which is a manufacturer's rep. So
Okay.
we kind of sit between Target Corporation and its suppliers, and we help them sell. So a big company like Mars, right, with M&Ms and those brands, or a big company like P&G, which you've
Mhm.
heard of P&G, right? they
Yep.
they're going to have their own sales force, right? I don't know what P&G has, probably a few hundred. Um, but Mars, I think, has a team of a few dozen, maybe a dozen, that's headquartered here, right? And their
Mhm.
whole job is to sell to Target. Well, not all companies have enough money to do that. And some of the big ones also like to have people help them that are experts in that specific retailer. If they're not geographically headquartered there, it's easier for them to contract it out. So that industry, you basically take a little cut, right? You take a little percentage, slice it off the top. Um, and when I first came back from California, I got into that industry, and I was in it for a year. I hated it, and I didn't know why. Well, part of it is because I was paid terribly. I mean, terribly, and I barely put food on the table, honestly. And
Mm.
doing it for a year, it was hard to get a job, not a good market. And then I'd been out of the market for 2 years doing what? You were in seminary school, and now you own a job, and we're 2 years into the Great Recession, right? So I had to take one on the chin, right?
Mhm.
Um, anyways, did it. It was fine. There's things I liked about it. I didn't find out until later the reason I didn't like it was actually it was a poorly run company. I had no idea. It was my first real job, right? So you
Right.
just think, oh, this is how corporate America is. I don't like it. but,
Right.
then eventually it was more about the money. I knew I could do better and do more than what I was doing. And I remember some interviews I had with ALDI
Yeah.
back when I was in college, and ALDI hired a lot of undergraduates and would
Mhm.
hire them straight out of college and make them a district manager. And there was an intense training period for that.
Mhm.
And but if you got through it, and it was like 50% attrition or something, didn't make it through store phase.
Mhm.
It's a pretty intense thing, and probably we have enough to talk about. I won't tell the story, but um, anyways, so they had this model of paying people really well. It was more than 2 times what I was currently making and a company car. Um, but they only, they was a really hard interview process, and they also told you like you're gonna work your ass off. Like we
Mhm.
don't mess around. Like there was no, you knew what you were getting into, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I remembered that, and I was like, you know what, I can do that. Like I can lead people. I've always been able to. It seemed cool to me. I work my butt off. I've always had a psychotic work ethic. Like I think I'm what they want. So I went back. I tried. It's rare for them to hire people that aren't just
Right.
straight graduates, or it was at the time because their main strategy was graduates. But I was close enough, right? Like I was like
Mhm.
graduate, 2 years, and then 1 year of work. And so they met me at work. And long story short, I worked for them for about 4 years. Managed a lot of
Mhm.
their inner city stores here, a lot of their fastest growing stores. Learned a ton. It's really cool. I probably hired over 200 people during that time.
Yeah.
Now, again, a lot of them frontline workers, but you would hold a job fair of 200 people
Mhm.
and end up hiring 5. Like you get really good at reading people quickly and
Oh,
understanding their
yeah.
strengths, and so I'll never, and then leading the people there. And Aldi has a super autocratic leadership style, like super
Mhm.
autocratic, and I am not that way. You probably can guess that about me already.
Right.
And so that was really hard for me, but other parts of me fit their culture really well, and so I did well, right, man. Eventually I realized like this is not it for me. Working too much, had 3 little kids at the time, or 2 and a third on the way. Can't remember if she was born yet, my daughter. But just decided, dude, I got to do something else. And
Mhm.
I was getting 60 phone calls a day, just all, I mean, it was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was unsustainable.
Right.
And what I realized now, actually, it was probably less the work, because I've always been a person that works way too much.
Mhm.
But it was probably less the work that was unsustainable. It was the way they like to manage people, and I
Mhm.
don't think it's a bad thing per se. I think the right type of leader works well in their system, but it's very different than my leadership style.
Mhm.
And I had no idea. I don't think I realized that till this year when I started the company. that was the biggest issue and struggle that was hard for me with ALDI, because everything else was great. You know, I performed well, I liked people, whatever. Anyways, okay, I'm going way too long here. I'm sorry, Zach.
No, you're good, man. And before like we
Yeah.
dive back in, I just want to ask real quick. Did you know that I'm from Aldi as well?
Wait, no.
No,
Wait,
okay, yeah,
no. Now that you say, I remember, but
yeah.
but not a district manager, right? Or that's
Well, see, so yeah, that's why we
specific. Oh
connected. I
my
think originally,
gosh.
now that I think about it, but yeah,
Ah.
to those of you listening, Zach mentioned the high attrition rate. I was one of those statistics. It's brutal. I mean, like it went well, but like, dude, I was working like 70 hours, and
Yeah.
I came from retail. Like I was an ASM in retail prior
Yeah.
to doing the DMT,
Yeah.
and I dude, like it was fine, and like it was what it was, but like it just wasn't sustainable to me. And like you said, they ask a lot of their managers, so like it was like, nah, this isn't what I want to do with my life. You know, I came from retail. Retail is what I knew, is what was comfortable for me, and I was like, yeah, you know, this is gonna be. To be honest, I took the position knowing it wasn't gonna be what I wanted to do long
Yeah.
term, but I was like,
But
it
they offer
pays
you a
well.
lot of money, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
At the time,
they
you were
pay you a
probably
lot of
getting an
money.
Audi A3, right?
Yep. That's what I got an Audi. I was fresh out of grad school. I was like, all right, I can at least put up with this for a little bit. And it was fine for the
Hmm.
most part. But then I was just getting thrown around and like, hey, you're going from this location to this location.
Yeah.
You know, good luck finding housing there, you know, because we were sending you 4 hours away and like all this stuff.
Oh my goodness. They are
It was rough,
nuts.
and it just wasn't
Yeah.
worth it. And I mean, I don't
No.
like, I'm not going to sit here and trash the company. I don't think it's like a bad
No,
company. I think
no,
it
no.
works really well for certain
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
but for what I wanted in my life and what I was looking
You're
for,
like, nah.
it just wasn't the thing. So
Yeah.
I jumped ship before I officially got out of my district management training phase. But the store
Oh,
phase, it's rough.
man.
It's rough, and like they literally like, you know, day one, I'm starting at the very bottom, and like they make you, you know, go from the bottom up there, and it's good, but it's also, you have to know what you're getting into. And it's funny because hearing your experience, it was actually different from mine. Like I was told like,
You thought it was
hey,
a
it's
bait and
gonna be like
switch?
smooth sailing. Like it's gonna be easy. You're just kind of observing and taking notes.
Yeah.
And like it's like you come from retail, you're good and all this stuff. And then like day one, I'm throwing truck and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
You're like,
And like
what am
I'm
I
having
doing
like
here?
an SM like no, like you're taking too long on your pallet. Like you gotta pick up your speed. And I'm like, oh my God, like I've never even thrown a truck before in my past jobs because I was managing the people that threw truck for me.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Yeah, yeah.
So
All these, they're a different beast, you know.
they
And
are.
they were transparent with us, but yeah, if you had somebody that's not transparent, that's tough. That's tough. I also
Yeah.
would guess, I don't know, it's probably a little different by division.
Yeah.
But I think our store phases were longer. Like I ran the store for I think 6 months by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So like my whole training phase was supposed to be, well, I don't know, actually. It might have been similar because I think the whole training period was supposed to be a year,
Mm.
but the like running a store phase, I think that was only like, because I completed that and that was like a month and a half or
Oh
something.
man. And that I think was the right decision, that they
Yeah.
shortened it, because that was nuts. Like they would take
Yeah.
somebody who was making like 600, making like 100K a year salary and probably like 20 to 30 bonus depending on the volume of the
Hmm.
store. That and they did this, it's almost like the army, right? Like you've got the enlisted and you've got the officers, right? So the DMs were kind of like the officers. Like it was extremely rare for people to get promoted into a
Hmm.
district manager.
Right.
So but you would be taking over a store for someone that
Hmm.
legit like had 20 years experience, because those
Right.
are more like enlisteds, right? And you just
Right.
jump in and they go to another store for 3 months and help some struggling store or cover a maternity leave or whatever, and you just go, right?
Yeah.
That was nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I covered, they said it was the last store they'd had me cover in my training district manager's district,
Yeah.
because it was in the heart of North Minneapolis, which is the roughest neighborhood we have here.
Okay.
And I would be the only white person in the store for
Hmm.
the majority of my training. Not that race has anything to do with, like, right, but that neighborhood
Right.
now it was just it was we get a lot of looks. Let's just say
Hmm.
that. But it was such an amazing experience for me, actually.
Yeah.
That's the part I treasure the most. I learned a lot. I saw some things and understood some things about my own humanity and humanity
Hmm.
in general, and
Hmm.
I just felt I just feel thankful today,
Yeah.
actually, for that experience. Now, the rest of the experience where they wanted me to fire everybody all the time and be
Yeah.
a massive jerk, I don't know. That part, I don't know. But
Yeah. It, pros and cons, but I think for the takeaway, I think to anyone listening is that like obviously it didn't work out for either of us, but like we still have good experience and like
yeah,
life
yeah,
lessons,
yeah.
and we can reflect back on it, and I think it's just cool that we can we can bond over our all the experience.
It's hilarious. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember now that's why we connected, but I did
Yeah.
not realize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
One more Aldi story really quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it is that I I had a night where I was, it was like a clopin, probably like my
Yep.
second clopin close open in a row. Is running that store in the heart of a really tough neighborhood. Coming home, I was so exhausted. I mean, I was pushing 80 hours a week, easy and very
Oh
physically.
yeah.
I mean, I've never been in such great shape in my life. I really need
Right.
to do another one of those, to be honest. But it's like 2 in the morning or something, coming back from a special buy set.
Oh
And I pull up to a stoplight, right? And I pull up to the stoplight next to the police officer. It's a red stoplight
yeah.
at a very busy road, West Broadway, North Minneapolis. And I look at him and kind of we give each other the head nod, and I just drove through it like it was a stop sign. I was so exhausted. He pulls me over. He's like, he was flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened? No, what are you talking about? And he explained to me, and I said, oh, yeah, I guess I did. But he saw my shirt. He saw a look at my face. I mean, he was a great guy. He took care of me. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways,
Oh man, that's yeah. I've had many a clopins where I have no idea what's going on and I'm confused, and I think it's funny because to anyone that like if anyone listens to this and they're actually like they've worked for Aldi or they work for
I'm
Aldi right now,
totally
like
sending this to like 5 of my oldie buddies that I still text.
that's funny.
I,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, like so it's funny because like you mentioned like just doing like a special buy set, and like I'm the generation where like SB was never a thing. So like for me it's Aldi Finds now.
Oh, right, right, right,
So
right. Oh, but you
yeah.
did know. You knew enough that it was a thing. You're right. I
Yeah, yeah. So like
hesitated. If you heard me, I was like special buy, and then I was like, nah, I'm not gonna find that word. I know it's not right anymore.
right, right, right. Yeah. So like when I started, because like you said, like you're working at stores where the store manager's been there for, 10, 20, 30, whatever years.
Yeah,
And like they're like, oh yeah, like you have to do like SB, like we have an SB set or
yeah.
something. And then like I'm like, what the hell's SB? And then like I'm talking to like my
Oh, done.
my director, and I was like, yeah, like or she was like she did like a store walk with me or something. She's like, how's like your Aldi finds? And I was like, I just like, what? She's like, yeah, like you the set, and
And now you were like, uh oh.
I was like, oh shit, like what did I miss? Because like I was only trained to call it SB, and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
everyone thought it was so weird. And then like when I would go to other stores and
yeah. I
talk
did
about it,
laugh
like
when I saw it was AF. I won't
yeah,
explain that term to your listeners, but if
oh
they
me
know,
too,
they know.
yeah. When AF, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, it's like go do AF, and I was like, what?
You're
And then I
like,
finally figured out
you're
it was
like, no,
Aldi
let's
Finds,
not
and
do that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's oh man, what Aldi, what a company, man.
Oh gosh, dude, I mean, honestly, we should just do a whole pod on it. It's so I don't. It's funny. I had a meeting with an investor this morning, and
Yeah,
he asked my story, and I didn't. I don't want to get into the whole reason, but I didn't really have an agenda with him. So I'm like, I'm just going to tell him my story.
yeah,
And for 30 minutes, I just told him my story because I was like, I'll just basically practice for tonight. And I spent way more time on Aldi than I never talk about Aldi anymore. It's
yeah.
like, so yeah, it's been a very heavy Aldi day, but Aldi's it's got its goods for sure. We'll have to
All
talk
yeah, yeah.
offline to ask who your directors were because I totally might have known them. Let me hold on. Let me try to get the Michigan division. Don't tell me Weberville.
Yeah, yep,
Nailed it. Oh
yep.
God, I'm
You nailed
exhausted.
it.
I'm gonna send this to my boy. I know a guy and he's gonna laugh. He's gonna love this. Anyways, I'm sorry. So
No,
Aldi,
no, you're good.
I was there. Oh, one more. Oh God, this is just gonna be an Aldi podcast. We'll have to do a series.
Yeah.
um, when I was leaving, I decided to leave because I was having a third kid come. The
Hmm.
money was good, but it was like, this is not. And again, it was the autocratic leadership style, especially.
Yeah.
I just you have to like you were kind of referencing, right? You walk the store and it's what's wrong.
Yep.
Like honestly, it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's wrong, and just
Exactly.
kind of like picking at things all the time. It's just
Right.
not for me, not for me. And so I would do it because I'm a super high achiever, high driven, but it made me very uncomfortable, and I
Yeah.
wasn't very good at it, and I would just piss people off. I mean, I
Yeah.
was good at it because I got great results, so I was, but I think you get what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like I got to get out of here. I didn't realize it was about that. I thought it was about it was sort of too about the drama and all the phone calls and just how much work it
Yeah.
was
There's a
and little
lot that goes
kids
into
and
it.
yeah, and it's been 4 years, and I was looking, well, 3.5, and I was looking at the director roles. We were in conversations about that, but it was like, dude, I don't want to do that. Like that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing, but it's like worse. Every
Yeah.
guy see your life, and I wanted the money because they offer a lot of money. I mean, that's the thing
Oh
about it.
yeah.
But anyways, now they don't pay as much for store staff. And I met with a good friend that used to be one of my store managers. Actually, I promoted him to store manager, and he was awesome. His name's Phil, and he's like they stopped when the wages went up in the rest of the state, and I think this is relatively national to some degree,
Okay.
where like Target and Walmart are paying better. Well, they didn't increase their wages. And as a district manager, when you had to fill the staff in your district with people,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing you had working for you was you paid like 50% better than
Oh
anybody
yeah.
else.
Oh
So
yeah.
you could get a shit ton of people in
Yeah.
and pick five. And that's what I would
Mm-hmm.
do. I referenced it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So, but that went away. And Phil's
Right.
like, okay, after that happened, and they just thought their shit doesn't stink, they could still do it. Now, it didn't matter. They kept their wages the same, and the incrementality of their wages went to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, now two people would show up at a hiring event when it used to be 200. And
Yeah.
that just tells you like the economics. Business
Yeah.
leaders need to look at economics and
Oh
understand
yeah.
that people and employees are motivated by cash. And it's
Right.
not a mercenary thing. Like, what the heck else are we doing here? And it's silly
Mm-hmm.
to do anything else. Anyways, I think you're an HR guy, so that's probably a little bit of a controversial statement, but that's how I feel.
No,
So,
no, I am. So I get what you mean, but at the same, like I'm totally with you on that. And it's funny because when you were talking about like the hiring events earlier, I was like, what the hell is in Minnesota water that you had 200 people come to your hiring event? Because I think the most I ever had was like 18.
oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Well, I also was like in a deeper city of
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
and but yeah, maybe I think there was an issue. Part of it, not issue, advantage that this division had.
Sure.
Um, that I think our competition kind of sucked
Okay.
comparatively. Anyways, we've
Yeah.
spent enough time on Aldi, but we could reminisce.
Right. Right. Yeah. So
So
yeah. What?
right before I left Aldi,
Uh-huh.
they upgraded us from the Camrys to the A3, and
Yeah.
that car is so fun
It is.
that
It
I was like, you
is.
guys got to be kidding me! And I had to take like a 20% pay cut and give up the car. And we just bought a house. I had the third kid, and I had to take this job starting over in this rep agency.
Yeah.
And so we're in Fridley, Minnesota, living there. I walked a mile and a half to the bus stop and back every day in cold Minnesota winters for 4 years to like, all right, because
Jeez.
it's me working, three kids, and then eventually, well, that'll come later. So I was there, went back, but fortunately for me, that's kind of how I found my grounding. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I didn't like that rep agency before that industry, and I found out that actually I loved it. It just
Yeah.
was a bad situation for me the first time, and I found my love for sales and strategy and sales leadership.
Okay.
And I found out like I knew how to read the data better than others. I didn't realize that I did. They told me that in my Aldi career, and I didn't understand it, but like I just
Yeah.
have a mind for reading data and kind of seeing the picture, seeing the story. And when I realized I was better at it than I thought I was, or at least there was an incrementality between me and the average bloke.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to sound cocky, but just like I realized now, oh, okay, and I liked it, and it came easy to me. And when you're selling stuff to Target, it's fact-based selling, man. It's data,
Yeah.
and we had the best data in the world, right? Because we got like freaking down to the store and the day and the item across 1,800 stores, billions of dollars, right? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
just a sea of data, and not just the POS data that I just described, but you got panel data. You can look at insights. and you've got the brand studies that are doing, because you have all these vendors coming in
Mm-hmm.
and doing these. So anyways, my mind was just kind of open to this world of commerce in that sense, and kind of putting that together with all the experience of management, and just my own personal drive and passion and emotional intelligence. It was really easy to excel in that world. And so
Mm-hmm.
pretty quickly got promoted 2 or 3 times, got asked for by one of my clients to take over the job of this guy who was getting pushed out for, um, and that was Con Air. And Roberta Basic, one of my absolute favorites, like a mentor to me. You should interview her. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, I'd love to.
oh my gosh, it would be a great interview. I'm going to talk to her about it. I don't know if
Okay,
she'd do it,
please do.
but yeah. But anyways, Roberta, everybody was scared of Roberta.
Okay.
But Roberta's like the biggest sweetheart in the world. She's just intense. And
Yeah.
anyways, we got along. I learned from her, and I learned from some of the amazing executives on her team. And was, one of my advantages, or one of my strengths, is I've just learned that I'll pound the table. I don't care. I'm not going to tell, business leaders what they want to hear because they want to hear it, because I actually know that's not what they want. you
Right.
know, people who are scared think they got to do that. And it's like, no, that's a bad employee. Right? Like, a good employee is the one who tells you the truth and pushes you on it, and of course follows your lead. But let's take thought leadership, and let's consider the strategy together. And by doing that, I would ensconce myself further and further upstream. And that was how I was able to advance my career there pretty quickly, and take on some big accounts. So I then was able to get to a point of achieving some good things. We did, and again, this story is already long. It'll get way too long if I go into too much detail. We did some things with reinventing Scunsy. I mean, we took 5% market share. We grew like by 8 feet of space, and I can't take credit for all that. Some of that happened before I was even there, but I was able to be there and be part of some really cool strategic conversations, and watch how to execute after a win, and follow through, and
Yeah.
double down, and grow a business, and take a business from 30 million at retail a year at Target to 150 million in retail a year at Target. Like, that's invaluable experience. And um anyways, that was amazing. And they weren't the only accounts I worked with. You learn high leverage negotiation, you learn
Mm-hmm.
P&L, all this stuff. So anyways, so there were some great leaders I worked with there. Lori, still maybe my favorite boss of all time. And then Jackie Gibney, who is the CEO, who bought that company from her dad when it was about 4 people. Gosh, if she would give you an interview, she'd be another great one. She grew it to 60 people, sold it to the stable, and then it got sold to Accenture.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like a big sister to me. I learned so much from her. Even though I didn't report to her directly, she was just a big influence.
Yeah.
And but anyways, I thought what I wanted to do was to do what, like Roberta, who I referenced, VP of
Mm-hmm.
sales for like a big CPG firm, right? You're talking huge volumes, taking a cut. The money's great. It's fun. You're in strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the tasks I enjoyed. A lot of the administrative tasks I hated, but for the most part, you get higher, you get to do less of those. So I was like, that's what I want to do. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
take me 5 to 10 years. And I knew to do it, I had to go to big CPG. And so I started applying after I was at Jacobs about 4 years, and I ended up at Newell Brands. Newell Brands, they have brands like Graco car seats,
Okay.
Rubbermaid, Ball Jars, Calphalon, Mr. Coffee, right? It's like a
Mm-hmm.
P&G type. Newell is probably like that rung below P&G, but they're huge, right? And publicly traded and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I helped with the Graco. I worked with the Home Gear Graco, which is like a $70 million business a year at Target, and then the Nook business, which I took over at 5 million, and I quadrupled it in 2 years basically. And I think it's on a better trajectory. But I learned a lot through that. And I also ran the baby jogger business, and eventually took over all the digital, which is like $150 million business, but not for super long. I'm not for Newell. I'm not for a big company. I really struggled there. I had a great boss who understood me and what I brought to the table, and some great partners on the marketing side that understood that, my strengths.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of big corporate America I wasn't cut out for.
Sure.
Meetings on meetings to report the news of like I'm a man of action. I am a
Mm-hmm.
man of action. There's a famous quote from Winston Churchill. It's one of my favorites. It's I like things to happen, and if
Mm-hmm.
they don't, I like to make them happen.
Yeah.
And that's me in a nutshell. And Newell drove me nuts that way. We'd have a quarterly business review, and then we'd have a monthly business review, and a customer business review, and a brand business review, and a division business. I mean, it was like we were saying the same shit 50 different times in different formats that different leaders wanted because they didn't have their stuff together as a company. It drove me nuts. So I wasn't a very good employee, but I actually was because I delivered all my targets. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
had a 30 grand bonus. I turned into a 70 grand bonus.
Right.
So, they loved me. I was good, but it was just not for me. Not for me.
Right.
And so 2.5 years in, my boss shifted, a lot of stuff shifted. It's a longer story, but it just was right. It was time to move. Got a role as a VP of sales for a
Okay.
brokerage firm called OMG. And they're 30-person small, but they're like a partner firm, and they're really secretive about their stuff. So I don't want to tell too much away, but like I
Sure.
had a good cut. I had a really, really good situation. So I don't want to say it publicly, but I had very good money, very good boss, very good people I liked. I had an upside to quite a bit of money that I really should have been able to have been happy to retire in. And 37, 5 kids, wife doesn't work. So great situation, right? Don't leave.
Mm-hmm.
8 months in, and I opened ChatGPT.
Okay.
That was February 24th of 2023. And I've never been technical. I've never been in this stuff at all whatsoever, but I opened it and it blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wait a minute. Now everything changes. And I probably need a break to take a drink after talking for 20 minutes straight. I'm
You're
sorry
good.
to babble at you, but that's the background. That's the background.
Okay. Interesting. I really appreciate you diving into your background and just kind of sharing what's led you to now. And as we kind of talked about just in our conversations off the record and kind of the intro that I gave you for today, like I know that you have that passion for AI, and it sounds like ChatGPT is kind of that pivotal moment that's kind of led you to where you're at now. A question that I actually have for you is: have you heard of? I apologize if I butchered the name, but his first name is Paul. I think the last name's Rotzer,
Hmm,
right, sir? He's
I'm not
very big
sure.
in AI.
Okay.
It's like Roetzer is this a
Hmm.
podcast about AI, and he's written
Okay.
some books.
There's so many folks out there. So if
Yeah.
he's like a key one that I should have caught, well, I'm eating crow right now and I got to check him out. But
Okay.
no, I don't know his name. Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah. I'll send you. I'll text you his name and stuff. But the reason that I bring him up is because I actually went to a conference about a month ago for work. And he was one of our guest keynote speakers, and honestly, like that conversation like opened my like the power of
Mhm.
AI and like how just what it can do. And I have a little experience with ChatGPT. I have a little experience with I can't think of what it's called right now, but like text to image generation essentially,
Sure.
where you can just like
Mid
put
journey, probably.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've just dabbled around with it, but like hearing him talk and just hearing him talk about the future of AI and how a lot of people think it's like going to take away jobs, or that people just want to like make it fully autonomous. Like that's not at least his
Yeah.
end goal. Like you're never gonna take out all the human aspect.
Yeah.
It's just supposed to kind of
Absolutely. I
assist. So
completely agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm really excited to kind of hear your thoughts on like AI and kind of how that's impacted you, and like why opening up GPT was so pivotal for you.
For sure. So I'm a really impatient person.
Okay.
I've learned this about myself. And I've learned that it can be a superpower,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the time when to use it in that way. And
Sure.
I've learned that it can be, I mean, well, everybody knows it can be a detriment, right?
Yeah.
But on the positive, it's always, technology drives me insane. Like when it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work, it just work, right? Like I know that you can effing do this thing. right? Like, why won't you do it, right? I mean, have you had this experience?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm with
like
you.
it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Or right, like say you learn about a new app that can
Hmm.
do something automatically or super fast that you used to take forever to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I already know about this? Or even maybe even more common, I've got this app and it can do this. It says it can do this. I think it can do this, but I can't actually make it do the thing that I want it to do.
Right.
Right? Or I'm learning, or I have this learning curve. And I'm also hopping in between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 apps, right?
Yeah.
Like there's an app for that. Oh my God, app fatigue, right?
Hmm.
So you open this thing and you say, well, think about what's with that causes that. It's
Hmm.
user interface, right? You
Yeah.
know it can do it, right? Computers are
Hmm.
incredibly powerful. Code is incredibly powerful. They could do the thing they say they're going to do. You can't figure it out because they can't design a good AI. Why? Because you can't talk to the computer. Only the coders can.
Right.
Now you open ChatGPT, you go back and forth with this guy. In 5 minutes, I realized I could talk to the computer now. That changes everything I just said.
So Zach, you're kind of talking about how just with, ChatGPT, you're realizing that like all these issues that were going on with kind of like interface, like you could talk to this, AI and get everything that you're looking for, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's the deep insight. I think
Yeah.
is what really changes. So I'm actually working on a white paper right now, looking at the ages of humanity, really, right, and
Okay.
looking at what changed it, what technology, what was the disruptive technology that changed it, what was the span of time that eclipsed or between that not eclipse that's not the right word but that what's the span of time between when it was invented and when it really changed the world.
Hmm.
And so I won't get into all that now, but I think kind of thinking of it that way instead of the way of look at all these AI tools, you should use AI or your job's going away. It's like, wait. Let's look at this. If this is a foundational technology, which a lot of smart people are saying it is,
Hmm.
Google CEO saying it's bigger than the discovery of fire, which
Right.
sounds hyperbolic, but I don't believe it's hyperbolic, or at least not that hyperbolic.
Right.
And that's a pretty smart person saying something like that. Now,
Oh yeah.
yes, he has an agenda, blah, 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 but like you can see a lot of people believe this is going to change it. So if it
Hmm.
is, right, without trying to like convince you or your listeners right now, if it is that big of a deal, then the question is, what were the other points in history where these kind of shifts happened?
Right.
And how do we look at what's going to play out now? Does that mean we can copy that playbook? No, every situation is different, but we need to draw from it. So I've
Yeah.
been thinking a lot about that and thinking a lot about being careful not to shoehorn this technology into the old legacy system, which is honestly the internet. Google is legacy right now.
Yeah.
Blue links are legacy. Okay, great. Google, you've got Google Duet. Okay, great. Microsoft, you've got Copilot. Okay, but you know what you're doing? You're building them into legacy systems.
Hmm.
That's not how disruption works. If this is a disruption event, those won't be the systems on which AI is operating. I'm not saying Google can't create the ones or
Right.
Microsoft can't create the ones. They could, but it ain't going to be building it into their old shit. I'll tell you that right now.
Sure.
And that theory and some of the insights I have, some of which we meet again, I can share, and some of which will probably remain IP for us.
Hmm.
But I think I can share enough to have an interesting conversation. And they basically have a philosophy of this. And as I look at this and look at what investors are trying to do with looking for founders, they're looking at the old SaaS model
Hmm.
and looking to replicate it. How's that working out? What's the market look like right now?
Right.
Where is all these funds tied up? No, we are in an advancing era. We are
Yeah.
in the change of an age. If you're in the change of an age, don't look at the people who did it before. Definitely don't look at the before. And as founders, I've just been, if you've seen me on LinkedIn recently, encouraging people, don't be scared.
Right.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared to go in. And that's not VCs. I don't mean to villainize VCs. People are worried about founders saying, look at everything that just crashed. You know what everything that just crashed was? SaaS, not AI.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't make a SaaS AI company too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but which is interesting, it's nuance. So we're building AI into SaaS because you have to start where the market is, but you need to do it with the right viewpoint and the right long-term view. So that's probably all pretty cryptic. I better stop or I'll just keep going in circles. I'm notorious for this, so I apologize for the
No, you're
length.
good.
And I would be happy to continue the conversation another day if
Yeah.
you're up to listen to me ranting again.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And I think that, to everyone listening, I think that this was a good introduction to kind of what Zach's up to, and, to get a glimpse into what he's working towards and what he's working on, and just to get to know Zach. I mean, I think a lot of, the podcast episodes, if you've been following along, are just kind of like introductions, who these people that I'm talking to are and what their passions are. And I think we learned a lot about Zach today. And I think we definitely are kind of setting naturally, without even us like rehearsing this or thinking about it, we've kind of set us up for another, to be announced or to be determined part two, where we kind of dive deeper into the AI itself and kind of that future, philosophy and projection that we have. So yeah, I'm definitely down to do a part two to this and to get more into the weeds of things.
It sounds awesome, Zach. So one, I'll correct you slightly and say I think about this shit all day long, every day.
Yeah,
So it's not like I am unrehearsed for our conversation,
right.
and I
Yes.
know that's not what you meant, but uh, yeah, I mean this is all I think about. I spent the
Yeah.
entire weekend
Yeah,
redrawing the ages of innovation
for sure.
in human culture. I mean I'm a psycho. So, but I really appreciate you having me on. This was really fun. This was for me. And yeah, I hope my exuberance doesn't scare you away. I would love a part two, and I respect what you're doing,
Appreciate it, man.
and yeah, look forward to chatting more.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So, thank you, Zach, for joining us. To everyone listening, hope you enjoyed hearing us chat. Hope you enjoyed listening to Zach's talk about things that we love. And sorry if us reminiscing about Aldi was was completely boring to some people. We had a good time, and that's all that matters. So, hopefully, you got some laughs or just kind of heard some insight onto something interesting. But yeah, man, we'll definitely link back up for part two and get more into things. And until then, to anyone that's listened to this episode, best place to kind of keep in touch with you and see what you're doing is that going to be LinkedIn, or do you have any other places where people should connect with you on?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, anybody can go to myubq.com, see the product we're building right now, which we didn't get into. I will say, I'm not just building a product; I'm building a company.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way we see the market, we're trying to build the first and flagship product for our company.
Okay.
But you can also, yeah, LinkedIn's great. I've been really leaning into it recently. I think that's how you and I kind of
Yep.
made this happen. I started posting every day about 20 days ago. It's really awkward at first, but I'm
Yeah.
getting better at it. And I know you'll see me on there and say I'm cheesy, but I will tell you, if you heard this podcast and you look at my content on LinkedIn, hopefully you'll be able to see, oh no, that's just how this guy is. So yeah, please follow me on LinkedIn. Repost stuff that's interesting. Reach out to me. Like I'm a voracious networker, and I'm just a nice guy, to be honest. Like I like to help out, and I believe that kindness makes the world go around, and we're all in this together. So anything I could do to help you in your career, in your endeavors, Zach, but also listeners, like reach out, man. I'll take a meeting with anybody if I've got the time. So
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. I'll put Zach's information in the description of this episode. And yeah, I mean, go connect with him, check out his LinkedIn, check out the website, and kind of just get a feel for what to expect in our part two of the conversation. But it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your willingness to be on the podcast and to help and support and spread kindness to me, to the listeners, and to everyone in this world. I'm right with you on it. It's important. And however I can help you in this journey, beyond honored and happy to do so. So until next time, I'm going to be looking forward to that future conversation. But keep doing what you're doing, man. You're making a big difference, and you're out there grinding and working hard. So mad respect to you, man.
thanks, Zach. Mad respect to you. I've already added your podcast to my list. So this is
Appreciate it.
Taz signing out for the real Zach here.
All right, Todd. Take care. We'll talk soon.
All right, peace.
Peace.